You survived.
Is this your doing? Choose your words carefully.
No, it was not my doing. I do not know what has occurred, but surely you have felt it. The voices crying out. The death.
The clones turned against me. Even Rex. I don't know why, they just suddenly weren't themselves.
Brilliant. I was not privy to my master's plan, but now I see it. He turned the Jedi's own army against them. Well, you've done the right thing by coming to me. Only together can we survive this. Now, if you will follow my lead...
You don't understand. I'm not here to team up with you. I need a diversion, and you're it. Now go cause some chaos. It's what you're good at.
Can't you give me a fighting chance?
I'm not rooting for you. Now get going.
Welcome, Masters and Padawans, to episode 638 of Full of Sith. Another special episode for you, a recording of another panel that Holly and I did at Indiana Comic-Con before a live audience. This time about the deaths of Maul, and just why we love him, and how intriguing and interesting he's become over the years, and how much of a surprise that was. We took some questions and we talked to folks and really just dove right into what made Maul so important. So, without further ado, welcome, Masters and Padawans. We're here to talk about the hidden depths of Lord Maul. My name's Bryan Young.
I'm Holly Frey.
And we are eminently qualified to talk about Lord Maul.
Are we? Sure.
I think so.
Sure.
I don't know. Do we want to introduce ourselves for anyone who hasn't seen us on a panel today?
Yeah, that's fine. You want to start or do you want me to?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm Holly Frey. My day job is talking about history, but I love Star Wars very much. Bryan and I host a podcast together called Full of Sith, and we have both written for StarWars.com. I occasionally help out ILM Immersive when they're doing presentations, acting as their sort of moderator at conventions and whatnot and press events. And I super duper love Star Wars.
Yeah, so I also really love Star Wars. Like Holly said, we do Full of Sith. I do a lot of writing about Star Wars or interviewing folks about Star Wars, whether it's through Full of Sith or StarWars.com, or I wrote for Star Wars Insider for many years, which unfortunately is not with us anymore. Its last issue just shipped last month, sadly. But I also write about Star Wars for websites like Slash Film or like Script Magazine and places like that. I just actually, speaking of Maul, just did a really in-depth interview with the head writer and co-developer of Maul, Shadow Lord, Matt Miknovitz, for Script Magazine. That was really in-depth, and you can actually listen to the audio of that interview on the Full of Sith podcast feed. But we've been doing this for a long time. Full of Sith has been going well over a decade and 700 episodes. And Star Wars is kind of our jam, and Darth Maul is one of those characters that I think everyone loves and has loved from the beginning. But I think it's interesting that a character that showed up on screen and just kind of looked cool and was popular for just kind of looking cool is one of those characters that has such interesting and unique depth now that I never expected that we would get him fronting a television show, let alone being a character whose actual death would be one of the most moving and memorable moments in all of Star Wars.
Yeah, it's so funny because I remember, as I'm sure many of you do, when The Phantom Menace came out, we had all that hype around Maul, and then he was on screen for, less than 10 minutes, I think, and was dead. And we were like, well, damn, that seemed like a wasted opportunity. And little did we know we were going to get a full, incredibly robust and layered story about how he actually got to that moment, and also that he was, in fact, not deceased.
It's interesting, Maul sort of really set the precedent for what a Sith could do, or what a dark side user could do in trying to cling to life and power as well.
Yeah.
Whenever anyone, people will have complaints about Rise of Skywalker, and that is, taste is subjective, and they are more than welcome to have whatever complaints about whatever it is they want. But one of the complaints that I don't feel is valid is that somehow Palpatine returned when we have Maul. One of the things that dark side users do is try desperately to cling to life no matter what, because selfishly that life is what they have, and they don't have that ability to access life beyond that, or transform into the Force the way the Jedi learned to, or access that netherworld of the Force that Qui-Gon teaches Yoda and Obi-Wan and Luke and so on.
Yeah, I mean, it also speaks to their inherent opposition to the whole concept of the Jedi Code, right? The whole idea of being a Jedi is that you don't get attached to anything, and they are so unwilling to let go of life that they will cling to it in any way possible, including rebuilding themselves out of garbage.
Which is even funnier when you say it like that.
Here I am a man with garbage legs. I mean, what else is he, right?
But no, letting your spite is a powerful motivator, and letting his spite, his drive for revenge, and his broken mind keep him alive is really an interesting character arc, and seeing him evolve over the course of the Clone Wars. And I almost didn't believe that first moment in the end of Savage's arc as Dooku's apprentice, that they were actually going to bring him back when Mother Talzin tells Savage, go seek out your brother. I thought she was just sort of sending him on a snipe hunt.
Oh.
Right? It was they're not going to really bring Maul back. He was kind of cut in half. When you get bisected, that seems pretty definitive, but no, it's not.
All things are possible with the Force and garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's an interesting thing, though, too. In Star Wars, they talk about, a lot of people will talk about, anybody can survive a lightsaber. Why should we believe that Qui-Gon would be able to survive that? And it's Qui-Gon wasn't desperately, greedily clinging to life.
Yeah.
Qui-Gon was accepting of that. Qui-Gon said, okay, this is it. I don't need to move, I don't need to grab onto that in the same way Maul did.
Yeah, because he had an inherent peacefulness that Maul could never understand.
Yeah. Which is what's so great about Maul's full circle moment when you get to the Rebels episode Twin Suns, where Maul does have at least some measure of peace, where he believes that Obi-Wan will get his revenge for him, which is such an interesting misunderstanding that Maul has.
Yeah.
That Maul comes to peace thinking that a Jedi will get his revenge for him.
Yeah. Yeah, Maul's whole story to me is interesting because I may make enemies, but the same way we have learned that the First Order took children, the Jedi did too. I have always struggled with the Jedi Order for this reason. But the thing is too that then as we got more information about Maul, you kind of find out he was trafficked by his own mom, and that's a whole other layer of a way that a child can lose their agency to, once again, another of these forces that is trying so hard to seize power. And so he stands out as a unique outlier that is kind of this pillar of how awful those things are, when really there's a whole lot of that kind of stuff going on in the galaxy.
How many of you watched Maul Shadow Lord? Most of you. Wasn't that a really poignant, beautiful moment actually in episode 8, The Creeping Fear, where he's very broken and looking at the muddled reflection of a young version of himself, promising to that young version of himself that what Palpatine did to him, the adult version of him, wouldn't let Palpatine do to anyone else, right? Like, not that what Maul does to anyone is excusable in any way. The evil things that Maul does are Maul's to grapple with and his responsibility, but having that window into what drives Maul was one of the most interesting, fascinating things about that show. And I was really surprised with that show how well they were able to dive deeper into Maul in a way that I thought we'd had mined the depths of him pretty well, that they were able to dig even deeper. And I think part of that speaks to Sam Witwer, who, if you notice, was a consulting producer on the show.
Yeah.
And, you know, talking to Sam, his thing was like, they just asked me, like, what Maul would be like, as though he's the expert in the character.
He's
now.
the arbiter of Maul's destiny, which is valid, actually. He's more connected to it than anyone's been.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's voiced Maul more than anyone.
Yeah.
And he's the one who says, like, this is how he would approach things. This is how he would do things. And he's been doing that since he started voicing the character. He's the one who ad-libbed the lines when Savage found him on Lotho Minor, where he brought in the Sith Code, where that's what he was sort of chanting in his madness. Sam Witwer is the one who brought that in from the old Legends stuff, when they said, okay, just go to town with what you think he would be losing his mind with, and it was Sam that brought the Sith Code to that. So I think Maul's in very safe hands as far as the writing team and as far as Sam as a guardian of that character, which is interesting to think, I guess. Again, like going back to Phantom Menace and going like, yeah, that character doesn't have a future.
Right, because we didn't have the wealth of information. I am curious, and you and I have talked about this a little bit, not this particular element of it. We see so much of, like, I'm almost reticent to use this term, a softer Maul in Shadow Lord.
Yeah.
In terms of how he's dealing with Devin, in terms of how he's, you know, kind of processing conflict, you know, any sort of setbacks, etc. It's not the feral, hyper-aggressive version of him that we've come to know in so many instances.
I think there's two things at play. One is that if you think back to Rebels, he doesn't realize that Obi-Wan Kenobi's alive until he looks into the holocron with Ezra.
Right.
So he thinks his purpose in life, that revenge to get from Obi-Wan Kenobi's over. Like, he thinks Obi-Wan's probably been purged with the rest of the Jedi.
Yeah.
2, Palpatine has enacted his grand plan, and the galaxy is not better for it. Right? Like, Palpatine had said, the whole time it was like, things are going to be better for this, but things didn't get better for Maul. It didn't get better for anybody.
Yeah.
And Maul's primarily interested in things being better for Maul, and things are quantifiably worse for Maul.
Yeah.
And so he's naturally introspective about those things. And he really, really, really had to start reevaluating what he thought of Jedi. I think there's a begrudging respect of Master Iko Daki, Iko Dio Daki, and just the Jedi in general, in that, yes, they had their flaws, they were too naive, but there was a stability in the galaxy that they brought that I could do what I needed to, I could do what I wanted to, and I can't do that under the Empire, which is something that his conversations with Brander Lawson actually brought out quite a bit, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? He did manage to survive what appeared to be his fate in Phantom Menace on Naboo, but his return to it is really a phase of examination for him, where he went from being what I would categorize as an extremist. I mean, I think to be a Sith, you have to be, to not only rejecting that ethos, but also considering others. Again, he's not a person whose actions you can justify, but like, in terms of behavior modeling, that's pretty good, right? Like, I can take in new information and change my position on my beliefs is something that people grapple with all the time. So he's a unique story in that regard.
And through the Clone Wars, when he returns, his entire ethos is, I'd like to get revenge on Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I also understand that the galaxy is changing and I need to carve my place out from it. It's interesting to watch Maul through the Clone Wars basically try to carry out Palpatine's grand plan in miniature, right? Where it's like, I need to create a power structure that puts me at the top, and I need to create a lot of moving pieces, these wheels within wheels, like my master kind of taught me to,
right?
And take power in a way that allows me to affect the galaxy. And he tries it in the most clumsy ways possible to start with. Like, who in their right mind goes, you know what, I need an army, Hondo's is going to work. And then his second try is like, okay, that didn't work, obviously. Let's go with Death Watch. Let's put together the Shadow Collective, and understanding how that's going to work. And then he's able to take over Mandalore in a very Palpatine-like plan.
Yeah.
You see that he's very much his master's student.
Yeah. He's one of those characters where I can't help but think, like, oh, if you hadn't been turned to evil, like, think of the great things you could have done. Because he's clearly very savvy and smart, and he absorbs information and knows how to then act on it and, make decisions with that information that are big, significant moves, right? He does a clumsy version, learns from it, refines, goes back. That's the kind of person that should be a scientist, but instead, Sith Lord.
Or former Sith Lord.
Yeah.
Head of Crimson Dawn. He's ultimately a very fascinating character, and seeing these layers get peeled away. I thought Rebels was a very fascinating step deeper into his character, and it makes me wonder who stranded him on Malachor. And Maul Shadow Lord opens up possibilities of more people who could have stranded him on Malachor.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I thought it would have been, after Solo, I was like, oh, Kira's the one who clearly stranded him on Malachor. And now I feel like we've got Devin as a possibility.
Yeah.
Because on Malachor, he very clearly doesn't have a way off, and it seems like he's been there for quite a while. And he's manipulating everyone to get there. But it also gave us, I think, one of the best moments, payoffs of one of the best moments in Twilight of the Apprentice, which I think is one of the best hours of has everybody here seen Rebels? Pretty much. Twilight of the Apprentice is the season 2 finale, the two-parter where Ahsoka, Kanan, and Ezra go to the Sith temple on Malachor and confront the Inquisitors there, and then, big surprise, Darth Vader shows up. But Maul is already there and has been stranded there. And Maul offers this truce to them and says, like, we need to work together here, and Kanan and Ahsoka really can't wrap their heads around this. And he has this really intense introspective moment, and just to what Holly was saying, like, he knows what he needs to enact his plans, and he's very honest about his capabilities and says, like, I need you all to help me defeat Vader because I cannot do it alone. And Shadow Lord showed us exactly how much he knows that's exactly the truth in incredible ways. Wasn't that fight amazing?
So good.
The texture.
Yeah, no, it was really good. But then he betrays everybody again because they're obviously not going to help him, so he needs to just get the hell out of there and steals Vader's ship to do it.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure, can you imagine like Vader going like, wait, who stole my ship? And being very upset about that.
Yeah, I just feel like his story gets... One of the things that I love about Maul Shadow Lord is all of the... We've talked about this. All of the painting in it, right? A lot of those backgrounds are actually hand-painted. They're not generated.
On glass, no less.
Yeah, they're absolutely spectacularly beautiful. And I feel like what makes that so magical is that it matches the level of like nuance and detail and just artistry of Maul's story is now told in a medium that engages with artistry in every aspect of it. It's like an interesting parallel to the way that his own story has become nuanced and beautiful, if ultimately sad.
Yeah, no, I think one of the things about Maul and his story, and ultimately how it ends up, he, I think, ultimately abandons his quest for revenge against Obi-Wan in his final moments, right? Obviously, in Twin Sons, his entire quest through Rebels in trying to get Ezra to see through the holocron was to find a way to destroy the Sith, right? Like, his goal is stated quite clearly in Shadow Lord. I'm going to make sure you can't do this to anyone else again.
Yeah.
In reference to Palpatine. But as soon as he finds out that Obi-Wan is alive again, when he looks through the holocrons with Ezra, is that Obi-Wan's still alive and has to go to him. And when he gets killed and Obi-Wan is cradling him in his arms, he realizes that Obi-Wan is there standing over the Chosen One. And what are his last words but that he'll avenge us both.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's what he's concerned about, and the solace that he's allowed to take for himself to finally die in some measure of peace is that the Jedi here, the one that he's been trying to spend his life getting his revenge against, will shepherd the Chosen One to help him get ultimately his revenge so that what happened to him ultimately doesn't happen to anyone else.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really beautiful, deep, in-depth story for that character.
Oh, yeah. It's also interesting that Obi-Wan has, like, multiple instances where he has long, drawn-out, almost romantic relationships with Sith. Right? He and
Yeah.
Ventress have that weird dance the whole time. He and Maul have this long, ongoing relationship where they know each other in ways that are so intense, but they also are still adversaries.
I really love the sort of visual symbolism that Obi-Wan has to go through, where he has to hold his master, cradle his master in his last moments in death, and he has to do the same thing with Satine when Maul kills her, and then he's forced again to do that with his enemy, and that the difference between Maul and Obi-Wan is that Maul will kill without remorse and do these things and not pay that attention, but that Obi-Wan will give that same reverence to his master, his lover, his enemy, through his entire career, his entire life, and that there's a consistency to Obi-Wan across the board that he will give that to anyone.
Except it makes it that much more poignant that he walks away from Anakin, letting him die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Obi-Wan, you complicated boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't we take some questions from you all?
Yeah.
If you've got any questions.
Maul-
We've just been,
Maul thoughts?
yeah, in the back.
What do you think is the biggest appeal for Maul?
I think initially it was just his look, right? Like, it was his design was just great. Like that Ian McKay design, where it was his second scariest thing that he could think of. I mean, at least for me, in that hype that lead up to Phantom Menace, it was just, this is cool, it's very Star Wars, and he's got a double-bladed lightsaber. It was literally as simple as that in the lead up. And then as he got more depth to him, it was just like, wait, I can peel away layers here.
Yeah.
Right? Like Maul was never my favorite. It was just like, he's cool. And then now it's just like, you could probably write like dissertations about how interesting his character and his journey and his arc is. If you lay it all out chronologically, he's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is that McCaig design, right? There's also the hilarious irony that, like, Ian McCaig is like the sweetest little candy cane of a man, and yet he drew so many of these terrifying things that, you know, became not only Maul, but eventually Talzin. It's that, like, the Night Sisters are all
Asajj.
very much his stuff, which cracks me up a little bit. But it was something we had never seen before. The, you know, slim amount of footage that we got in the lead up to Phantom Menace was, you know, that incredible, like, wushu martial arts stuff that looks superhuman. His design was just super compelling. And I mean, I think it's kind of funny because the thing that bit us all on the butt is that we were like, I can't wait to hear, like, to see what this guy's really like. And it's like, you actually saw it in the trailers already. That's pretty much a wrap. But it is so visually compelling and thrilling to watch something like that we've never seen, particularly not in Star Wars, where we thought we understood what the bad guys all looked like, right? To suddenly have like this, you know, much more dynamic facial tattooing and all of that after we've had Vader, who we all know what Vader looks like, and the stormtroopers are all very black and white, and to have that red in the mix just shifted gears on it and made it like, oh, something entirely new is happening here.
I think the fighting itself too, right? Where the fighting was more dynamic. You know, Lucas talked a lot about how until the prequels we'd only ever seen, you know, old men and half men, half droids fighting, and we'd never seen Jedi in their prime or Sith fighting really all out. And they brought, you know, Nick Gillard's fight choreography brought an energy to the fighting. I interviewed Manny Jacinto this morning about the Acolyte, and he said that for them, when they were doing the fight choreography in the Acolyte, Phantom Menace and that fight with Darth Maul was the bar they were trying to at least meet when they were trying to do a good lightsaber fight. So I think that's part of it too. Wait, here and then up here.
For me, it was the physicality, because it was like two old samurai squaring off that we'd seen before, but he brought like this just raw energy, not just the strikes, but the sounds that they used.
Yeah.
The footwork that he used, and it was like, oh wait, they're kicking people. He's kicking them in the face. You know, everything that showed it. It really felt like everything they showed what a Jedi did, they had him do the other.
Yeah, he's super feral. I mean, he's just like aggressive on a level we had never seen before in a Star Wars.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
The actor, well, stuntman, whatever, communicated that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was something, I know it's impressive to do, to not say a word and be able to communicate.
And be terrifying in the process, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, looking at Theo being such a big deal, if the double-bladed lightsaber was never a thing, do you see that arc or just character playing out completely differently through time? Or
I mean, I think
how
that
big of an impact do you think that had?
I think it had a big impact, but I still think he would have still
Yeah.
like I think the facial tattoos, I think the horns, I think his role in the story was just as important as that. But I do think the double-bladed lightsaber did help. I think George Lucas would have given him at least two lightsabers, even if they weren't connected, because he had to fight two opponents, right? Like there's something to that parody that George Lucas would have done for that. Otherwise, it wouldn't necessarily have worked from a choreography standpoint.
Right. Yeah, I think it still would have developed. I mean, most of his stuff has very little to do with his lightsaber once we get past like just those fight scenes. So I think he would still.
Well, and some of the most dynamic parts of the fight scenes are after Obi-Wan's cut his saber in half too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't think it would change where we're at a whole lot. We would just.
More along the lines of like fan perception. Like, you think people would have thought he was as badass as after that?
Oh, I don't know, because I think the design carried a lot of weight. I mean, like I said, we had never seen anything like it before.
His lightsabers weren't what was on all the packaging. It was his face.
Yeah.
And if you go back to 99, if you go back and look at all of that packaging,
That was the best.
it was his face that was on everything. Like his face was on
All the card backs.
all the card backs, all the action figures, all of the packaging for every toy. Absolutely everything had Darth Maul's face on it. Very little of it had just the lightsaber.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think Maul is Maul Shadow Lord's finally going to pick up where Solo left off? Because they left it off with that cliffhanger at the end, but never built off of it again, not even with like any more live action movies.
I think Shadow Lord is probably going to build up toward Solo. I mean, Shadow Lord still happens like 9.5 years before Solo.
Yeah.
And I think there's no telling where season 2 is going to happen timeline-wise. We do have comics with Kira post Solo, where she's dealing with, she steals Han and Carbonite between Empire and Jedi, which is a great...
when he's getting all gooey.
Which are great stories. If you haven't read the comics where Kira interferes with Boba Fett's
Transport,
they're great fun. And Vader does some really terrible things in that. I mean, like, when is Vader not doing terrible things, though, really? But so we do have some gaps in that story filled in, and we do have some for Kira as well with E.K. Johnston's book, Crimson Climb, and we do have some other gaps filled in other places. But for Maul specifically, I do think and hope we will get more of that. And I know, Shadow Lord did fill us in with Dryden Voss making his proposal.
Yeah.
So I do think we will get more. Will Shadow Lord overtake Solo? Too early to tell. Who knows where season 2 will take us?
Yeah, and we don't have any. I haven't heard. You might have. Season 2 is the only thing that's been announced. I have not heard whether or not there is the possibility that this will be more of an ongoing series, or if they're thinking 2 and through.
I don't. All I've heard is that season 2 was already in the works long before they announced it. They kind of went right into season 2.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Thinking about Anakin and Maul and all of the things that happened to them in their lives that kind of led them to where they are, how would you kind of compare and contrast the two characters as tortured souls, basically?
Oh, this is so fun because I got to moderate Matt Lanter's panel earlier where he was talking about, Anakin's trajectory a lot. It is interesting, right? I feel like it goes back to my thing where I'm ripping on the Jedi, but I feel like so much of Star Wars is really stories that are born out of childhood trauma and the ways that those things shape people that maybe they even think they have gotten over and they never really do, right? That's why Anakin eventually turns to the dark side. He still has that need for love and desire, and he has a good heart, but he also has a darkness to him. Similarly, Maul is kind of the flip side of that, where he's been raised to be evil, for lack of a better word, but there is part of him that wants something more and more fulfilling. Even, I would argue, in wanting revenge against Obi-Wan, it's a relationship that he creates in his head of this guy and me are locked forever. I'm gonna end him, and that is my life's purpose. There's both tortured souls that are looking for connection, but they're doing it in parallel worlds that are theoretically, of course the Jedi think they are doing it right, and I'm sure Palpatine thinks he's doing it right. But it does become a really interesting thing to kind of watch their trajectories because they land in some ways in very similar spaces.
I think there's a different alternate timeline though, where Anakin could have overcome a lot of that trauma had Palpatine not been pulling strings.
Right.
And I think Palpatine is the common denominator in their trajectories toward the dark side in a way that maybe supersedes a lot of their trauma in some ways.
Well, it plays on it too, right?
Yeah.
In the case of Maul, he's directly implicated in causing that childhood trauma because he goes to Talzin and makes the deal that he will get her son. Whereas in the case of Anakin,
I mean, Anakin's part of the choice to leave.
yeah,
Because he doesn't have to go.
yeah, but like Palpatine recognizes that there is still an emotional trauma there to that, and he plays on it instead of. You could still make there are many people that would make the case that he is in fact responsible for Anakin's existence, which is fine. But in any case, like Palpatine is really, in terms of the direct actions we know of that are acknowledged, he is playing on this kid's trauma, whereas he caused this kid's trauma. But he's driving him on the same bus
Right into a lava pit.
to sad school.
Yeah.
Sounds twofold. Favorite set of Maul legs? Slash favorite kind of stage of Maul?
Favorite Maul legs and our favorite stage of Maul.
I'm really a fan of the legs they gave him on Shadow Lord that they had Vader cut right into.
Yeah.
And having
Okay.
everybody kick him in the knees. That was really great. My favorite iteration of Maul might be the one on Rebels, where he's much more introspective. He's much more. I love him just adopting Ezra as his apprentice, where against Ezra's will, right? Where it's just like, you're my apprentice now, and there's no two ways about it for Maul. And he just keeps relentlessly trying to kill the rest of the Ghost Crew so he can just take his apprentice.
Which is funny because he's replicating the same thing that was done to him
Yeah.
that he wants no one else to ever do again.
Yeah,
But he doesn't know how to exist any other way.
yeah. But he still gets what he needs. But really, for me, the ultimate moment for Darth Maul that makes the Rebels Maul my favorite iteration of Maul is that moment in Twin Suns, is that final lightsaber duel, which for me is very much an echo of the lightsaber duel between Kyuzo, the Master Swordsman, and the bombastic, arrogant samurai in Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. And you've got Kanbei Shimada, the old wizened samurai, looking at the two of them saying, this is such a waste. And, the master samurai going this is a waste of time, I won. And the arrogant one going what are you talking about? And the fight plays out sort of very much the same way Maul versus Obi-Wan does there. And the way they staged it is exactly shot for shot, beat for beat, timing-wise, right out of Seven Samurai. And as soon as they did that, I knew exactly where it was going, and it was so beautiful. That it was just so poignant and perfect, and how Obi-Wan reacted to him, and the sadness of Maul, and that modicum of peace, that quantum of solace that he was able to take at the end there was just right. His ending was perfect for me.
Spider legs.
I knew that was coming.
I mean, I'm an arachnophile anyway. I love spiders, so Spider Maul is rocking my clock. And I would concur. I mean, it is Rebels. It's a Maul in his maturity is such a fascinating concept because we never thought he would be that. And to have it not only happen, but happen in a way that was written with such incredible care and thoughtfulness, it is one of those things that makes what could have been a very one-dimensional throwaway character, because that's what he seemed like initially, turn into a blossom of incredible possibility.
Because that's where he's able to show vulnerability. Mm-hmm. And I think Maul is this enormous package of rage and arrogance every point in his life up to that point. And Shadow Lord has actually peeled some of that away, because I think watching the Empire come to be, and I think maybe Shadow Lord is sort of the first steps toward that Rebels Maul, quite naturally.
Yeah.
And we're seeing some of those first signs of that vulnerability, but actually seeing Maul alone in a galaxy expressing that vulnerability, and not only expressing that vulnerability, but doing it in front of Kanan and Ahsoka. And Ahsoka, especially after what happened to the two of them in Order 66, where it's just like, I'm not rooting for you.
Yeah.
I need a distraction. Like, that interaction and seeing how he is able to show her vulnerability later on Malachor. That's what makes all of that package work, that you have this broken man still trying to make his way in the universe is really fascinating. That's why that's my favorite iteration of the character.
Did you have one? Yeah.
Yeah, and I apologize if this leads off too far into a tangent.
That's okay.
That's all we do.
We love a
It's
tangent.
something I've been wondering about, because I love the depth they've given them all. I like how they've kind of expanded on Boba Fett a little bit. Do you think we will or should get some kind of development of Phasma?
A Phasma?
Yeah.
Gosh, I hope so.
I mean, we have a little bit with Delilah Dawson's Phasma book, which
Yeah.
was really terrific. I mean, if you haven't read Phasma by Delilah Dawson, think Mad Max Fury Road, but Star Wars starring Phasma.
Yeah.
And that's like the best pitch for the book I can give.
Oh, it's so good. I really hoped that we would get like a mangled version of her in 9 that was just like maybe a little screw Lucy off her rocker crazed. So I was a little bummed we didn't. I would love to get more of her because I just think she's super interesting.
She was another character that just seemed wasted.
I mean, like, she wasn't any more wasted than Boba Fett was in the classic trilogy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what gives me the feeling that, like, we'll probably get more, but I don't know, like, it's not like we've gotten much more on-screen sequel trilogy content since the sequel trilogies come out. I think there's going to be a period of time where we just aren't going to get a bunch of it, and then we're going to get a whole lot of it. And Phasma's almost certainly going to be a part of it because of the Boba Fett phenomenon, right? And we've gotten a lot of it in books. We've gotten a lot of it in comics. You know, especially stuff with, like, her backbiting with Hux, and I wouldn't be surprised with Armitage Hux, not even just not Armitage,
With
Brendel,
Brendel,
with
yeah.
Brendel Hux and things like that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of that's explored more. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more animated stuff on the horizon. I think part of it is just they needed distance from it to figure out what they're actually doing. If Simon Kinberg is really doing continuation in that timeline, I can understand why they wanted to hold back in case they want to do more with those actors and not want to pull another. We've got to reset a whole bunch of stuff, so we don't want to throw a whole bunch of things out there. We've got Starfighters that's going to probably break the seal on some of that stuff because it does happen in that part of the timeline. So I don't think it's a matter of them not wanting to use Phasma or any of those characters. It's just the time hasn't come for it yet.
Yeah.
So I would fully expect us to see that at some point.
Oh, I hope.
We got one here and then one in the back. And then... Okay.
You know, you think of the Sith versus Jedi, the kind of think of it as the whole like quality versus quantity of life and like what they want. And then ironically, Maul, you know, is no longer a Sith, but I think he is the most overt example of wanting that quantity of life, like you said, going in the trash and making his legs and just driven by that. And also it's interesting that he was the most like Sith-like in that way, but then yet he was not a Sith in the story. I just thought that was really interesting that he was almost the poster child for clinging to life.
For what we all think a Sith should be, yet he was outside of that system.
He was a really good student.
Yeah. I also think, like, he's honestly the least sneaky of them, which is why that's part of it. You know, Palpatine, I mean, we know, is like machinations on machinations on machinations, whereas Maul is just like, I'm going to get revenge and kill you, just FYI. Like, there's no subtlety about him at all.
He's sending Aaron Burr-style letters to him, like, can we duel now, please?
Is it time? Is it time?
So we'll go in the back, and then, yeah, the very back, and then we'll come up.
What do you know about supposedly Maul being in the sequel trilogy? George Lucas.
So
What happened? Why they just possible?
that was, they didn't. Okay, so this is one of George Lucas's initial ideas was that Darth Maul and Darth Talon, not Maul as a Darth, and not Darth Talon, but a character based on the Darth Talon designs. Maul would be a gangster, much like we saw in Solo, right? And would be pulling strings, and his apprentice would be a Darth Talon-like character, and they would be the ultimate bad guys in the galaxy, sort of taking oxygen from the New Republic. And that was one of the ideas he had for the sequel trilogy. Ultimately, parts of what Lucas wanted to do got used, right? Rey's character was from Lucas's outline. What happened to Luke came from Lucas's outline. Finn, in most ways, is what happened in Lucas's outline. Like there's a lot of stuff that got used from Lucas's ideas and story outlines. And the thing about Star Wars is that no good idea goes unused, right? And so Devin and Maul being a gangster ended up in Solo, right? Like, and then Devin being this Talon-like apprentice for him ended up in Shadow Lord, right? So it's not like they abandoned George Lucas's ideas; they just used them in different places, and that's just how Star Wars has always worked, right? Like if you go back and look at the original drafts of A New Hope, Mace Windu and midi-chlorians are in there, right? They just use different ideas at different times. Vader's castle in Rogue One is based on a sketch Ralph McQuarrie made for Lee Brackett's initial draft of Empire Strikes Back, where Vader's introduction was at his castle, right? Like, sometimes it's not the right time for an idea, but that was definitely something Lucas had come up with and wanted to do, and now they're doing it. Palpatine's first name, Sheev, came from all of the unproduced but written Star Wars Underworld scripts. So after Clone Wars, or while Clone Wars was being worked on, Ronald Moore from Battlestar Galactica and Deep Space Nine got hired by Lucasfilm and George Lucas, and they personally worked on writing 60 hours of this TV show. And they've mined it for all kinds of stuff, like Palpatine's first name, or some of the Underworld stuff that they've been doing, and Level 1313 all came from this television show that never got produced, that they were just trying to get somebody else to pay for, and no one did, which kind of sucks. But it's all still there, and they're all still using those ideas. It's just they're getting placed elsewhere, maybe not where they thought they would initially. So it's not like they've just abandoned George Lucas's ideas.
Yeah.
They're just getting used elsewhere.
I think one of the most sort of magical things about Star Wars is that things can get shelved for finances, cut for clarity, etc., but like no one ever really dies. They're always still in play in the bigger, backstage picture of like who can be pulled up next, which is always fun, because even though you hear about something that you really wanted and it maybe didn't make it into a project, I mean, like Phasma, there's every chance we're going to get more Phasma at some point, which is, the possibilities are always there, which I really like.
And we didn't see a body with Phasma, so.
Yeah. Just a jacked up face.
We've got time for like 2 quick ones, so we'll do here and here.
Does it seem, okay, when they first, let's see, in the prequel, when Anakin turns, I also read the book to that. It really felt like the dark side was a consuming force, that it ate away at what you were as a person. Have they shifted that kind of tone? Because it really felt like it's a thing that drives, almost like a self-driving engine. You know, you give into your hate, and then you're angry, and you keep building that hate. And the book had a really poignant moment when Anakin's making a decision if he was going to help Palpatine or not. And it really, they described it like it's consuming. So does it seem like they've steered away from that in the dark side?
I mean, George Lucas has, in talking to Sam Witwer about it too, that the dark side is that anger can fuel you, but it takes the meaning from your life. You know, it drives everything that's important to you away from you, right? So there is a level of consumption, but there is a level of fueling you.
Yeah, I mean, I think also the thing to consider is like, even the Sith are not a monolith. So the way Anakin experiences the dark side is different from the way Palpatine experiences it, is different from the way Maul experiences it, which is kind of what makes Anakin's thing so poignant, right? We know he has love in his heart and that he had good intentions, but he did, like those things he had been battling, all of his demons throughout his entire, career as a Jedi, just ultimately he could not win out over them when he got put in a high stress situation, essentially. But that's not necessarily how it works for anybody else.
That's why I was wondering with Maul, as he evolves, are they going to, do they address that driving force in Maul?
I think in Shadow Lord, the thing that they really addressed is that his driving force is that revenge against the people who wronged him and wanting to make sure that the people who wronged him can't wrong anyone else like him in the same way they wronged him again. And that's, again, like, noble, but he goes about it in the most dark, horrible, murderous ways possible. Last question.
So the late question reminded me when I watched Shadow Lord with my brother. It's like, well, why does Maul act like he's in pain when his legs get hurt? And my answer was, well, I think he wouldn't need the pain. He needs to know they're broken. But the pain, I think he needs it to drive himself forward and to give him more anger. Is that kind of how you see it, or do you see it differently?
Do you remember in Revenge of the Sith when Vader's mask is coming down and it looks sharp and painful and awful? That was a very clear story design decision from the people making that, to make it look painful, and that pain does drive those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I have always kind of grappled with 2 takes on it. One is that, like, because they have a love affair with pain, and those are uncomfortable, so when they get hit in any kind of way and it shifts on their body, it probably hurts. But the other thing is that they are also, incorporating the Force in the mechanization of those, like what's propelling them, what's driving them. It's not like he has a big old battery pack on his back, right? And so that's part of him, essentially, at that point. If you think about the Force like
the better
a
answer
laminate.
is in The Empire Strikes Back, when Luke gets his mechanical hand and 2-1B starts poking at it and he says, ow.
Right.
Empire Strikes Back sets the precedent that stuff hurts.
And I said that to him, like, well, as fingers, you need to know that hurts, you're doing something bad. You would think if you're fighting, you would want to, like, turn that pain off so you could not be influenced by it. But I also think that also helps him be stronger.
Yeah, I mean, you're also dulling your dexterity at that point, and your ability to, like, process where you are in space. So it would be probably a net loss.
The out-of-universe answer is that we identify with people who experience things the way we do, and none of us have bionic legs in ways that Maul's works like that, right? So that them making it as close to a human experience as possible makes it more relatable for us as the audience, especially in those quick fights. So it communicates the emotion to us as quickly as possible. So that's probably the most logical answer, is that that's just the quickest way to get the emotion and the information across without having to stop and go like, well, so he turned this thing off and he can't feel the pain. It's like it would feel weird if he's not making the, you know, the grunts and the sounds and things like that.
Also, I just think he likes to emote. I mean, Maul is a big old drama queen.
Like, even if it wasn't hurting him, he'd make the sounds.
Yeah.
So, that's...
Somewhat to having a limb amputation.
Yeah.
You're going to have phantom pain because you still have the nerves that go there.
And
it's
if...
still going to affect your, especially if it's mechanical. And
that's a great nickname for Maul, is the Phantom Pain. But that's all the time we have. Like I said, Holly and I, our podcast is the Full of Sith podcast, so you can find it at fullofsith.com. And we'll be around tomorrow with more Star Wars panels and stuff. I don't know exactly what's going on tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's too late for me to know what's going on tomorrow. But thank you all so much. I hope you enjoyed this discussion about Maul. Yeah, I love discussions like that. I really love talking about Star Wars to just about anybody. So, for Full of Sith, you can go to fullofsith.com, listen to the entire back catalog of episodes, and send us an email at holocron@fullofsith.com. Be sure to rate and review us wherever it is you listen to podcasts, and look out for Holly and I on the road. I know I'm going on a book tour pretty soon. I'll be on both coasts in the next few weeks. If you want to go to swankmatron.com and find out where that is, and I know Holly is we're splitting up sometimes, so she's going to be at Tampa Bay Comic-Con, and I'm going to be at Dragon Con at the same time, so we'll be in two different places doing Star Wars stuff in those places. We're just going to be around. So I think that's it for now. So why don't you put that in your pipe and smoke it, as Kurt Vonnegut used to say. So for super producer Mike Pilot, for Holly Frey, I'm Bryan Young, and the Force will be with you always.
Sir, if you'll not be meeting me, I'll close down for a while.